I win this falls as deals unpaid, and I want it all to find court these department heads and judges arrested over branches of government security, knowing that you are all within the law's orders not allowed to organize crime. I said so. Puerto Rico will be giving back all this money since those foundations are carried. I said so. The monies will end as scheduled payments listing June 30th. As cut off as all this trick playing at once. It's racketeering and RICO money laundering assistance using the courts as a slime grabbing ways into the U.S. government's database, aiding a bill paid listing. Nobody in Puerto Rico employs as a single government council. These judges are all advised that the limitations to the jurisdiction has been shown, notified, exposed, that you are all not lawful under the cloud of association to help the mob steal from this government funding and having lining of pockets as organized crime, as a justice system failures. No one is ever to be brought a care case filing as Jordan's lacing as a cause for ways to cause filings to your cost of a civilian's production as cases being filed offshore may not be entered into the U.S. tax payment as a quatermain, sand. Masses of cases of the U.S. converted operations filed fuel basis as recovery. You all will be returning all this income as totem pole station listing ID theft. Judges have no jurisdiction to order the government, no one civilian case filing as required. Those levels are to do no more demolition carry, concealed permits, as those doorways demolishing ICE will no longer demolish a building fund, older dilapidated fund saving as all bill highway paid, shown as can't cash in ID theft as one ads. I said all camera system and phone lines went dry, layering these judges' chamber. They have no authority over the president's office, as the president's office is the highest office in the land. Therefore, judges that are con artists went too far with this contemptible oath, valor, income sure. Massachusetts governor, mayor's last line, as this judge filing, as to order the FBI's agencies to tab save as they're here too long, as all soon notified that all migration judges' chambers also are out of the law's jurisdiction to write fraud lines showing as assistance to the mob. Judges onshore loaded this cash bundle as buying lines, pay listing, all substance abuse, standing on government lining into the U.S., landlines, calling calendars, paid through the U.S. courtroom, budgeted. This fraud, it's called defiling government, defraud, the chamber's quote sanctioning as self-gifted authority, bun running ideas as classification, all halts. This means that the judges' chambers can only rule to find a complaint guilty or deficient, nothing above jurisdiction level as laws cables to order organized White House Princeton laces as to become the president over all headquarters called the governance of the USA. The names used is shown as mob offenders, ordering judges to claim racing tax borrowers whose last date due as complaining. Leaving the U.S. database has also brought notices that the mob rules inside the FBI headquarters neither. No judges simply tells ICE agents to halt any Akron swords as polished skills were needed to bring the justice to the land shore FBI sanctioning. Based on bluffing tactics, no challengers, the lords, nor rulers as kings. Will Ben's rings tone failure as lives. The FBI source suffered by basing all primetime mortgage deals on notice. Your news teams having no authority to override coercion stale gate findings as filed action fees. Finds no named lines as also said notices. Having the no proper jurisdiction has been shown as no legal standing, a tolerance of news time, shouting out the schedules for rogue manicuring of files that you are all as a shore. Self-documenting fraud as wire fraud, our government stance as the president's quarter, having no legal binds, authority to make changes to the government structure. all has caved as being pulled out as targets of the U.S. civilians paying bills through taxes paid as courtroom drama. This means the FBI will now sanction all these liars as filed, getting on with filing fine Mexican citizens or Puerto Rican citizens to beat no more tax credit. He vacates all premises at once. No judges may order fines. The FBI says no judges are allowed to channel that he or she may instruct our military to define what is a Cal Grant on a bench warrant listings. It is fact-finding that judges willfully lose their freedom to prayer line in meals. Also, Mako immigrants bend as construction of illegal institution as filers gone unnoticed. This was wiretap scenes finding improper procedures. Worries on how the rules engage. What is being called all who stay too long. All justices, even the Supreme Court, funneled precinct violations. I said you will all show no more violations as the programs are overrides. The law's constraint allows no government judges ordering a budget payroll listing through a courtroom doctrine. No governor's mansion files prohibiting as governor's tax prohibiting levels. At once, all these budget fraud filings are to be returning from the government's assisting fraud families framing ongoing deal payroll listings. This was made in just failures. To procedure cause falls as a part of monitoring agencies' overreach. A divorce hearing stamps approval on all this bailout loans called Detroit driver's license records. To hear these cases as asylum will no longer be released as a relief center filing as chief office only, nor sanctuary stations identifying tax break crediting. Not under any specific jurisdiction, the U.S. civilians are not under a specific protection to hear any such claims as welfare checks, chasing travel ban credit cards. Jury trials were also stricken from the court's proceeding, being poor simply as a part of social class, as a status. Eminence is being shown as Americans may not raise kids from other governments' detentions around the world simply claiming a hardship because the judges' chambers have violated the laws. The apprehension of detainees or detention center sends establishment as bank accounts and bank grounds of persons accounting for improper tag office filings are also out of the state's authority to perjury action cases filed. Illegal representation of the U.S. columns to Drake fines folds. Apprehension of the ICE agents and FBI on any government's authority attempting to override the protection standing. That this government has orders to fire all those injunction with the filed fraud lines as removal of penalty of perjury issued as an injunction to the law's statute now returns. Those are no conditions to our laws as radiance lawful construction to the rules. For late date filing is called having defrauded this government for personal gain. You have pretended long enough that U.S. has individuals that have no concept that a judge has this authority. Reaching levitation of limits to your authority terminates every verified freedom of a federal corruption. It is being shown as notice, filed as those programs refunding, being pulled and halted as abuse of government's management teams. All are on notice that no one's judge association may organize crime through orders organizing the crime. Disdain as powers of officials claiming the state authority. I said so. HHS, DHS will also, DOJ lose intrusion stances upon notice. ICE agents nor FBI are a joint branch of governments for these departments. I said none are allowed to interrupt. No such legislation is allowed as immigrants may be sent back home and deported only. No courtroom hearings as migrant stance. Nothing is allowed. No such stance against the president's headlines as the highest office. Planned Parenthood, DACA, FEMA never had orders to fund Boring Corp as filed by night sales offices. Pit Farm Workers Union dues filing. No case action as retro action case filing. Find homes to defraud this government classified ad postings within the government is not the law. the U.S. department-led or causes for organized crime. Still committing perjury, I said you are all bringing kids into this country now halts. No sponsoring other homelands. That means failures as Engineer Corps Army Assistant Water Bills funding. All 200 million billion will be returned to the U.S. Power outages failed. I said you are the guarding of the theft as the government without legal authority. Release from funding to bring anybody under the dark of night skies into the U.S. All embassies are also to halt face calling files. I said so. None will see the light of day at the end of this instigation about halting headlines. As my name is chief, I never authorize any payments. Striking them down upon notice that you are all being called, used, all upon loader calls. You all are being used and no resource training equipment posturing is allowed as soldiers, swearing them in as naturalized citizens joining our army, not the law. Divorcee, education secretary also not allowed as doorways, hard housewares, nothing in our education as giving away school shell corps funding, windfalls, donation coverage. To any other government, I said Puerto Rico will be returning all of the grants as Prime Day now falls. I said, shown the doorways, it all is gone. I am causing Puerto Ricans admission statements lining budgets, pocketing cash as being a United States interruption. Interpretation fails as this money now halts. Although civilians will be returned back to their government of origin. The judges rules only on that which is laws, calling nothing as a conflict to the law's jurisdiction. A judge, jury finds, noses in spite the face will be a say-so. You use stayed over the tenure, nothing overriding the rules to laws, government budgets to charge every house this hardship on income tax evasion. As a death trap is shown, you wanted to become the country's governments, inside a government, rewriting laws as you all are add-ons. None is allowed. Neither attorneys bothering to authenticate the Constitution as a constraint. Also, bills are to be giving back from all its hides. All are not above the law, a bunch of con artists. I am the author of all the legislation and will be returning the proper jurisdiction of the government. And no stars overnight as jurisdiction is called, out of order. I deal, please post it, none comes. I save, orders, shouted, you will be leaving in handcuffs, no bailed outpost defrauding this government. Intentional treason, out of deal pay lines, as you have all bullied too long. Now let go, I said so.